Thank you very much, Gitika, for introducing this session. Happy to be at the Congregations India. And what's going to be most exciting is I know that you've had a long day of lots of sessions, but this, I promise you, is going to be one of the most explosive ones because I've got two of the most incredible people whom I've personally known for a long time, who will be adding a hell of a lot of value to the folks who are watching this currently. All our event fraternity people, the media, the brands, and everybody else. Watch out for this. Now, who do I have? Number one, while Gitika has already said what she had to, but I've got to share my experience with you. Mr. Priyank Kharge. He has been the youngest cabinet minister in the state of Karnataka at an early age of 37 only. And what was he heading? He was heading the IT, BT, tourism ministries, as well as the social welfare department ministry. Now, what's incredible about him is that he used to be an entrepreneur himself, a technology, and he loves rock music. For all of you, you'll be very happy to know that he loves rock music. He's been to all the concerts that have happened in Bangalore and across the country and internationally. He loves music. And one of the most amazing things that I've experienced personally with him, whenever I've worked with him, and I've had the privilege of working with him, is from the creative inputs. Not too often you come across ministers who understand creativity as well as he does. And he can give a run for the money for even the biggest creative directors and ad agencies, because I've seen the impact that he's created. If you go back to see what he's done, some really amazing stuff. I also believe that if not from his political lineage, which he's born into, he would have definitely been an event manager. Take my word for it. That's one of the most important things. And I do hope and I do believe that sometime in the near future, he should be heading the state of Karnataka as a chief minister sometime in the near future. And that's Mr. Priyank Kharge for you. And coming to our very own Mr. Kumar Pushkar, one of the most passionate people that I've ever come across. Bureaucrats are all very intelligent, but he is made of another grain. He's amazing. He has been, he's an IFS officer, Indian Forest Services, extremely passionate about greenery. He has headed the Forest and Wildlife. He has headed the BBMP. He has also headed the PMTC, the Bangalore Metropolitan Transport Corporation, as well as the Karnataka State Tourism Development Corporation. Now, during his tenure, he has made incredible impacts. He has pivoted the departments as well as accelerated the growth of each of the departments that he has been heading. Now, apart from the fact that he's been a visionary leader, what he has also done is just before COVID, he has framed a few policies that were very, very necessary for Karnataka, whether it's rural tourism, caravan tourism, be it wellness tourism, aerosports, and including heli tourism. However, right now, keeping COVID in mind, he has very quickly adapted to technology, has made sure that the impact still stays, and he has created new chapters to make it better for all of us to experience tourism in a more immersive manner. I've personally even traveled with him to various locations around the world during some of our trade shows and road shows. His passion is impeccable. So it's a privilege and an honor for me to have Shri Priyank Kharge ji as well as Shri Kumar Pushkar with us. So thank you so much once again. So coming to Priyank sir, I have a couple of very important things to ask you. What I've noticed is you're one of the very few ministers that I've ever heard of and come across who has used experiences and events as a very pivotal tool to make the desired impact, apart from just advertising and PR. What is the genesis of this whole thought process of yours, which has really given the desired impact that we all look at, we've seen, we've worked with you today. So what are the things, what is it that really made you go into events and give it that much importance?
Well, thank you for those kind words, Oum, firstly. And the reason that I follow design is because I come from a design background. Not many of them are aware that I come from a 3D designer background, and also I'm a graphic artist myself. So my emphasis of design comes from that background. And of course, the Department of Tourism and IT had to bear with these fallacies of mine, because it's not every day that the government works creatively towards making policies and designing policies. So when I took up the Ministry of Tourism, we had a very small team of officers who were kind enough to oblige to what we could say to see how we could make Karnataka a destination of experience. And I think we succeeded a little bit in that because I think that the nature of tourism has changed over a period of time. Before it would just be going to heritage sites, monuments, or probably religious tourism. But people with aspirational values started to uh, demand for experiential tourism. So when you say experiential tourism, it could be events, it could be exhibition, trade events, music festivals, conferences, product launches, basically anything, sports tourism. So anything and everything that could help them enhance their regular run-of-the-mill tourist experiences. And I think during my tenure, we succeeded in trying to do that. So we had we had people engage in the Bengaluru Hubba, which you were a part of, which became a very local tourism. We had local flavor to it, where we built communities, we brought in local culture so that people could experience what is there in their neighborhood. Then we for the first time we had the year of the wild, wherein we concentrated heavily on environmental tourism, we concentrated on adventure tourism, wherein we came in with green passports where people could go trekking. We had the ecotourism on board with us, where we came up with 21 new green trekking routes. Then we
Wow.
had the adventure tourism of bouldering. We had river rafting as a part of our experiential tourism, where we promoted different parts of Karnataka so that we could cater to different sections of people who are talking about experiential tourism. In fact, sports tourism took a huge um, thrust during our tenure, where we have Asia's biggest ATAF tournament, the Bangalore Tennis Open, being done in Bangalore. Then we created the Bangalore Golf Open, which was one of the biggest events uh, in India. So we tried to revolve everything that we did as an event. So there was a start, there was a finish, there was a huge PR activity around it, because all of us believed in making an impact. So I think having experiential tourism with event-based tourism is going to have a greater social and economic impact for shorter durations. But if we are consistent enough, it's going to be completely it can evolve into a government policy. That's what we have shown.
Absolutely. So, in fact, I remember after you've done the Bengaluru Habba across the lakes and across, after having launched, you were the first person, at least across the whole country, from what I know, who's launched the logo of brand Bengaluru. So, right after that, I remember that the policy changed and the people, the government, in fact, allocated additional budgets for the redevelopment of the lakes, etc. So, I think it's been an incredible, sort of an initiative from your end. And Mr. Kumar Pushkar has always worked along with you, and you both of you worked hand in hand. And I know how important it is for a minister and the bureaucrat to work in tandem. Without that, nothing can really come through. And that is something that's very important for all of us to understand that as an event fraternity. But how do you think it was to work with Shri Priyank ji, especially with the kind of creativity that he brings to the table, the kind of iteration that you'll have to go through, the kind of edginess that he brings to the whole thing? Because he's never done stuff which is a typical event with putting flowers on a stage and doing these other stuff. He always looked at technology. He's looked at disruption all the time. So how was your experience working with him, and how do you believe we should take it? I mean, as event companies, what should we take back from your experience that you've had?
Yeah, at the outset, I would like to thank Congregations India as well as you for organizing this conference or discussion.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, I have been into the tourism sector for last almost 4.5, 5 years.
Yeah.
And the beginning was when Kharge sir was the tourism minister. So that was the time probably when Sir joined, and then immediately after a month or so, I joined in KSTDC as the MD. And it was a great learning experience for me. In fact, whatever I know today, probably I would give a lot of credit to Kharge sir. One thing which I would like to tell is that as soon as I joined, he gave me a task that you
Okay.
understand your organization and come out with a wish list. First, analyze your organization and come out with a wish list which the government will support. And that was a big task because I did not have a team which could actually work on these kind of a thing. The organization was running for a long time, but without any objective, without any goal. So those were the issues. So this, while doing the wish list, we got into the entire case citizens overall working, and then we had a strategy in place, and then we also had a wish list. That was one thing which I learned under his guidance. The second most important thing was the promotion and publicity.
Right.
The tourism sector, as you know, it is biggest contributor to the employment as well as economy. And tourism cannot be developed by the government all alone. It is a segment where the private stakeholders have to come forward. We need to support them, and the biggest support is basically placing them properly in the in all the fields across the world. That this is the best destination. These are the different kinds of tourism products which are available. So we need to spend a lot of effort on the tourism marketing and publicity works, and that can
Right.
happen through events and a lot of other media. So this is what in fact sir also gave a lot of importance, and we used to sit for long hours. We had a small team, as sir told, the secretary tourism, the two MDs and the director tourism. We used to sit together for quite long and on a very regular basis,
Sure.
and then
Sure.
discuss the strategies, and we concentrated on the overall promotion aspects. In fact, I remember during sir's time we reached up to a level of almost 100 crores being spent on the media and publicity.
That's
And
fantastic.
that brought Karnataka to the limelight across the country and also in the international arena. Uh,
Absolutely.
and we could see a growth in the overall footfalls in the state of Karnataka as far as the domestic tourism is concerned. We could see almost 21.5 crore people visiting in the subsequent year to Karnataka. That was almost 30% growth in the domestic tourist footfall. So
Right.
this is one example of how you spend a certain amount of money on the tourism promotion and publicity, and then how you get the returns, and it is evident very within no time. So these
Got
are the
it.
things, and then sir's simplicity, the way he used to take the team along. There has been a lot of learning. I have been having a great support from sir, and thereafter the other ministers also from the different governments, they also supported us. But then the initial knowledge gain which we had was from Kharge sir, so I am always indebted to him. And then the relationship which I had, normally for a bureaucrat to be very close to the minister is not possible, but then he built that kind of a relationship where we had a very comfortable time with him, and then we could express ourselves before him. So
Absolutely.
yeah, this is what I would like to tell to this.
Super. I mean, that's the same
If I may
experience
add
that we've
one
had.
point, Rome,
Yes, sir.
of course, Mr. Kumar Pushkar too has been very kind with me. I hope sometimes he comes and campaigns for me sometime soon. At least I may take that of vote for that. But
Yeah.
the whatever he said was, of course, was like you rightly put it. The government as well as the officials work together to ensure that the political class as well as the bureaucrats work together to ensure the greater good of the state. So under Mr. Pushkar, the Karnataka State Development Corporation, for the first time in 44 years, showed profit.
Yeah.
And that was
Absolutely.
because we took the approach of planning smaller bits, events around everything. So, like I was telling you, the Bangalore Tennis Open, which is probably Asia's biggest ATF tournament.
Yeah.
So, my colleagues asked, "Sir, what does tourism have to got to do with tennis?" So I
Sure.
asked them, "Do you know anything about Wimbledon?" They said, "Yeah." They said that that's where the greatest tennis event happens. So I rest my case. So people go to
Absolutely.
watch these events. People go to, there is a footfall. When the footfall happens, the economy starts bustling, and it's going to help the localites more than anybody. So it is a little difficult, but like I said earlier, thanks to my team, they were also able to convince their colleagues, and I was able to convince my colleagues, and that's how it started.
Brilliant, sir. I mean, it's incredible. So now with such a beautiful story that we have at the back of COVID, and according to me, I always say, earlier if you used to say BC and AD, for me, BC is before COVID, forever. Now, while that was what it was before, what is it that we're now going to be doing for not just, of course, the event fraternity, but for the government itself? How are we going to? What are the new things that you could expect to do, which will start building back the economy? And what are the new policies that you think will help the event fraternity to bounce back and grow along with all of you, with the government? What are the things Pushkar, sir, that you'd recommend? What are the things that you've done? What are the new chapters, and what do you see as the future in the immediate future after COVID vaccine is out and whatever else it is?
Yeah, as all of us know, COVID has actually brought us to a very difficult situation, especially in the government sector where we are supposed to look after the industry.
Yeah.
We are in a fixed, we do not know how do we support the entire industry. Globally, we look at almost 319 billion people. They are into this, 87.5 million jobs are there, which is generated by the tourism in India, which
Right.
results into 194 billion Indian rupees of the GDP, which contributes to almost 10% of the GDP, which is a big amount. Globally, also almost 10 to 11% of the GDP contribution comes from the tourism sector,
Okay.
and there has been a loss of jobs to the extent of almost 50%. Loss of jobs, loss of revenue is much higher. In fact, there were almost 6 months when almost 90% of the industry did not get any kind of a business. Even today, when the slight improvement is there in the scenario of the tourism, what we find is that it is only limited to few hotels and few destinations. We are not having the kind of a travel and tourism which used to be there earlier, and it may take a long time. The business travel has almost come to a standstill. Business travel used to contribute to almost 60 to 70% of the total tourism. So that's totally at a standstill. So we have a very difficult time to actually face now. And as far as what we have to do, we were actually coming up with a new tourism policy. The previous one to 2015 to 2020 came to an in March, and then we had been working on the new tourism policy, but because of the onset of COVID, we had to modify a lot of chapters and lot of strategies. And then finally on 27th of September, the World Tourism Day this year, the Honorable Chief Minister launched the new tourism policy, which is valid till 2025.
All
Now,
right.
if I look at the tourism policy, the first vision itself in the policy, the vision statement says that position Karnataka as the most preferred tourism destination. So it's basically positioning. Positioning happens through marketing, media, events, and so on.
Right.
The second point comes as a mission. In that also, the point number one says that promote Karnataka as an attractive tourist destination and place it prominently on the domestic and global tourism map. Again, the role
Right.
of the event managers is very important here.
Right.
The third chapter is objective. And in the objective also, the most prominent one is to promote Karnataka in domestic and international markets through multitude of marketing channels.
Right.
And then we come to the strategy, where the first strategy is tourism marketing and promotion. And there's a whole chapter on that. Now, this is the change which has happened from the previous policy to this policy, where in the previous policies, the tourism promotion, marketing, publicity, all these things were probably one of the subsidiary component. In the
Right.
new policy, the first and the foremost thing is basically the tourism promotion and publicity. And all these things can
Fantastic.
happen through different kinds of events, different kinds of media. Priyank sir,
Brilliant, sir.
just now he mentioned about certain things. The events, like we can have events at the city level, at a lake level also. In fact, we had very successful lake festivals here in Bangalore, which was the
Right.
brainchild of Kharge sir. Then we had Bangalore
Yes.
Haba and so many other festivals. We also in Karnataka we have Dasara, which can be elevated to a much higher level if we make it as a actual tourism event. Then we have
Absolutely.
the Hampi's festival, which is also very famous. There also we need big event managers to come together and then bring it to a higher scale so that we can market it across the country. And also, once the international travel becomes simpler, probably a lot of people will get attracted to come to Karnataka. So this is, I mean, the festivals are very important. Apart from that, the events also needs to be conducted. Like earlier, we used to do the tourism events. Probably, Om, you also have participated in number of domestic and international events.
Yeah.
Where as
Yeah.
a tourism community, we go, we have our own pavilion, and we sit over there. We have B2B
Yeah.
meetings as well as B2B, B2C interactions also. That is another way
Right.
of promotion. Probably we can look at having such events now at the domestic level because the travel across the country is seamless again. Only
Absolutely,
when we
sir.
go to different countries, we have certain restrictions of quarantine and other things. But if it is within
Right.
the country, probably we can travel across. So we need to now restart the domestic tourism events. And also
Fantastic.
simultaneously, we need to have the physical road shows also
Brilliant.
where we go to different places and conduct such road shows. At the same time, now we have also explored the virtual world. We
Yes.
know that the events can be conducted on the virtual platform. Road shows also can be conducted on virtual platforms. So the event managers or the event companies should also give those kind of options where we can have very fruitful interactions and improve the network and we can promote our state or the destinations.
Excellent. So I'll tell you, this is music to the ears of all of us event managers over here, with the way you pivoted the whole thing. And if I were to ask Shri Priyank Kharge one thing, if he had to have a crystal ball to gaze, and what does he see in the near term and in the future term? What do you really see for event organizations? I'm sure there's going to be a binge because of all the restrictions that's happened, the lockdown and everything else. People are dying to get out, to close the destinations, travel around the world. If they can't do it immediately, would they happen? Would it happen later? And what would be, Sir Priyank, sir, your vision or what it's likely to be going forward for event organizations and people in general, citizens in general?
Just continue a little bit on your previous question, and then I'll just flow it down to your current question. Because what
Yeah.
you asked earlier was very important on what government can do for event companies or for promotion of events in the tourism sector. Firstly,
Absolutely.
I think events are high value tourism attractions,
Yeah.
and they act as catalysts to change and they they change the image of the cities. It's good for business for everyone. So
Right.
it could be a convention, it could be a trade show, it could be sports related activities, it could be cultural related activities, like Mr. Kumar Pushkar said, like the Mysuru Dasra.
Dasara.
I mean, the point I'm trying to make here is that until and unless government sees events also as a part of a tourism package, it becomes extremely difficult for event managers to come or event fraternity to come together and promote anything. So one small example is like what they do with Oktoberfest in Germany, or
Right.
what happens in Dublin about St. Patrick's Festival, where millions of people come together. It's promoted by the state, it's promoted by the Department of Tourism. It's an experiential thing. So until and unless we go a little beyond religious tourism that happens in India. So the Pushkar festival is promoted, the Kumbh Mela is promoted, a bit of Rajasthan festivals are promoted. All that is good, but then how do the event fraternity make this a year-long event across the country, across the states, across cultural ideas, across businesses? You know,
Yep.
trade shows are huge in everywhere. Film festivals. Why can't we have a great film festival right here in Bengaluru? Although there is one Bengaluru International
Film
Film
festival.
Festival, is it really international in its nature? Is something that uh,
Revisit.
we need to look at.
Right.
And we are the IT hub. How many products are launched actually in the world's second largest technology cluster?
Yeah.
The Bengaluru Tech Summit is one of the biggest tech summit that happens in the world, and
Right.
we need to
Right.
promote those events for tourism as well. It's just not. you can't look at it in isolation. So the policy that Pushkarji suggested was a great. If we have to be a preferred destination, we need to be very agile. We need to adapt to the scene that is right now happening. You know, it's not like the pre-COVID times where we can adjust how we want. Now we
Right.
are in difficult times, and I think the government should look at promoting events, promoting festivals that will actually be very relevant to the economies or the local economies of the country or the state here. So, like Pushkarji said, employment is a big issue. It's been hit. Guides who take care of heritage sites have been hit. The hospitality industry has been hit. The event industry has been hit. So, how do we get these things back? People are looking at the government to do things like that. So I would like to use this opportunity to probably lay foundation for on your behalf to the government, saying that until and unless we subsidize, incentivize events or the event fraternity, it becomes extremely difficult for you people to bounce back also. And
That's
when
right.
it's an event, it is just not you people bouncing back. It's the hospitality industry bouncing back. It is the entire transport industry bouncing back. It creates employment. It generates local economies. It stimulates the local economies. It brings in the social change that people are looking for in these difficult times. So I think that the policy is good. The preferred destination among the country is good, but is it as relevant as it should be in these times? I don't know. So I think probably the only way people, the reason why people now are traveling is because of necessity. It's not more to do. It's not luxury or leisure anymore like it used to be before. Now
Right.
with reduced incomes, travel is going to be even more reduced, especially the middle class, the upper middle class, or even from the lower income group.
Right.
So until and unless it is event based or a necessary based travel, people might not be willing to do that. So until and unless government comes forth, says like, look, why don't you have this event in this place? We are going to incentivize you. We are going to subsidize you. It could be even a destination wedding. It could be even film tourism. That's also an
Absolutely.
event, right? So until and unless government does that, the recovery will be slower than expected.
Brilliant, sir. I mean, these are absolutely gems that you kind of giving us, and I'm really hoping. And since Pushkarji is also listening to the whole thing, I believe that this is what we need to really focus upon, because there are challenges that event companies are not really clear about. Saying, predominantly vendors are the ones who come and bid for tenders, etc., and they pick it up due to cost reasons, etc., but not really professional event organizations. So I'm hoping that our fraternity has heard all of these things, and they will be more aggressive about bidding for these things, because what we really need is a professional way of running events, a professional way of producing events and thinking. So that's something that I know for a fact that Karnataka tourism and Karnataka government as such is far more open to the whole thing and proactive. And when we say one state, many worlds, we truly are all of that and more. And Priyank sir, like you rightly said, we really hope the government is going to. I mean, I know all of you are already empathizing, but I think even from the center, if they can come up with some kind of SOPs for event organizations to bounce back sooner than later. And the only folks that we can expect this from are not so much as much from corporates, but as much from the government in itself. So for
If
me,
I
that
may
is,
add in, chip in for your fraternity,
yeah.
tell the central government very clearly, like if you can have elections and have huge rallies, I'm sure you can have events as well.
That's one of the most critical things I was coming to, because political the events is another thing apart from government events. And you touched upon sports, you've touched upon cultural events, tourism. I think that's something that, of course, centrally, tomorrow, I guess, my other colleagues are going to be speaking with the central team. I mean, I think they've already finished the session earlier this morning. So let's see how it goes, and let me see what the outcome of the whole thing is going to be. Yeah, this is broadly what the whole thing is. And I don't know if we have enough time for us to go through any longer, but what would be your single message before we kind of really wrap up this session? What would be your message to the event community as to how they can partner with governments and play a really active role in this developing sector? That's piece number one. The second thing I wanted to ask you on a personal note is, we as an organization, I mean, Phase 1 has kind of created a venue at the Bangalore International Airport that's going to be ready soon. I'm only hoping that the government, we will all work in tandem to make sure that we bring in more for the state of Karnataka, bring in more MICE events, bring in more sporting events, etc., with the international infrastructure that we're going to be constructing over here. So I'm hoping that the bureaucracy and the government together sort of enables this. But back to what is your message to from each of you? If you can tell us a message for our event fraternity, it'll be great because right now we've come to the end of the year 2020. We want to say goodbye to it, which is the reason I also have a Santa's hat right behind me there to bring in some good cheer and some good gifts in the year 2021. But any message will be great because both of you have been extremely positive and optimistic and really made a big difference. So something from your end would be great as a closing note.
Pushkar, you can start.
Sir. Sir, I would like to basically conclude by ending on a positive note. Basically, I would like to tell that the event community need to work along with us, sir, whether it is tourism sector or the sports or any of the other sectors where the government is also as active. We need to work together, and we need to be also very relevant. In fact, you just now you told about the relevance also. Today, we cannot simply project a destination as a destination. You need to basically project it from the point of view of experience and also relevance. People do not have money only to just visit places. You have to make it relevant so that people find a reason to actually come and then visit that place. And in the process, we will generate employment, we will generate some kind of a input to the economy, which is very important today. We can all understand the problems of the government because of the COVID. I mean, the overall revenues have come down for the state government as well as the central government. So the government also probably may not have sufficient money to directly pump in money to the event community or the tourism community.
Sure.
So we need to basically create such kind of opportunities, and that can happen only when we work together. The event community people have a lot of brilliant ideas. You have to come forward and partner with us, and we will be always happy to welcome you and work together. That is what I would like to say and conclude.
Thank you so much, sir. In response to what you're saying, I can assure you that all of us, event community, will come together and seek your help on how we can get empaneled. While we are, I think a lot of other organizations can add so much more value to different niches of the services that you require. And we're hoping that you'll be able to sort of encourage and sort of empanel us.
Thank you.
I guess so. Thank you. And Priyank, sir.
The government should, in these trying times, I think the government should do a slight policy shift and concentrate on meetings, incentive, conference and exhibition facilities. I think that is what will be a huge thrust. The airport thing that you were talking, the airport MIC center that you were talking about.
Yes.
Because I think globally by 2025, it was estimated that the industry, the MICE industry would be close to around 1,440 billion dollars.
That's right, sir.
In India, we have just not even scratched the surface, and we every year is growing at close to around 15 to 20%. And if my stats are right, it's a 8,500 crore industry, and there is nothing. And if it's going to grow at 20%, you can imagine the potential this segment has. And we are already rated, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 31st in the world for preferred destination for MICE as per the International Congress and Convention Association. So if we are able to push this, try it like Pushkarji also earlier said, and you also were mentioning, try to make their travel a little more experience, a little more meaningful, little more economical, but which will help stimulate local economies. I think that's where the government should be planning. If because it at the end of the day, it is just not. It won't be a regular tourism. It will be experiential plus event based. So it will be not a completely what do you say, a guilt luxury tourism. I think if the governments across the country, state governments, and also the central government can come up with some kind of policy perhaps to ensure this industry gets slightly better tax subsidies, like I said, incentives earlier, or maybe you guys must have taken a lot of loans for
Yeah.
getting your infrastructure up, getting your equipment up. If there's some moratorium that can be offered by government, I think those things will help this fraternity get back on its feet. And once you're up, I'm sure that it will help the entire ecosystem as well. So, in conclusion, I think probably you need to organize yourselves better and get yourselves heard at the highest level.
So I'll tell you, it's not for nothing that I said in the beginning that if not for your political lineage, you would have actually been an event person because you spoke like one of us. And this is exactly what we need. And I think it's such
It's
a
all about
privilege.
socio-economic impact. Whether it's a bureaucrat, whether it is Mr. Pushkar or it's me. Our job is to ensure that we cater to a larger section of society. So
Absolutely, sir.
if the events are going to help people at the bottom of the pyramid, it's going to help lower income group, it's going to help businesses. You are going to be the catalyst. That means we should support you. And now that you have Mr. Pushkar here, at least Karnataka should not be a problem.
Absolutely. I was just going to tell you that. Thank you so much. And Mr. Pushkar, sir, I remember he means business when it comes to these things. For him, it's measurable differences that he expects at every little stage. He's so hands on. I mean, I love working with him as well because, and it's such a pleasure. I mean, it's such a privilege that Karnataka government has people such as Pushkar, sir, who's at the helm of affairs. And we can only see better times to come. And Priyank, sir, I do hope you're going to come back, not just with tourism, but many other departments that you can be helming back very soon for us to galvanize and get back on our feet. And thank you so much once again. It's an honor that I've had the both of you together in one space. And it's such a privilege for the entire event fraternity. And yeah, that's all I would say. And I told you that it's going to be explosive. And guys, this is what it is. And we've had some great takeaways. Thank you so much. And let's go in for the next session.